Welcome to Broadstairs Life. Hello there, welcome to Broadstairs Life, and today I'm with Mitch, who is a dog behaviourist.
Yes.
And thank you for doing this today, really appreciate it.
Thank you for coming.
You're quite well known about Broadstairs, aren't you?
Yes.
So I think what would be a nice introduction if you can tell us about yourself.
Yeah.
So over to you, Mitch.
Before I forget you, why I think I'm known in Broadstairs particularly, I mean, I'm known in lots of the cafes and that by name, but because I walk my dogs, because I'm a dog behaviourist, I've taught my dogs to walk nicely next to me, not on a lead, and lots of people see my dogs walk, a greyhound and a lurcher walking up and down. I mean, I think I started, so I've done 32 years in social work, is my sort of career, but alongside that I rescued or helped rehome dogs for 3 charities, and so I've rehomed. I often say to people I do that, and people say, oh, that's nice, but I think they're surprised that I rehomed in my spare time over 1,100 dogs.
1,100?
Yes, yeah. And that involved, I worked it out recently, 4,500 hours. Yeah. So that's troubled dogs, and what I was doing was learning how to help them. So I was rehabilitating them as well for the charities, but I really started. I've had my own I've only ever had rescue dogs. So from Battersea, the Dogs Trust, Greyhound Trust, Angels for Dogs. So I've only ever had those, but I had dogs for probably 40 years. But the reason why I got into the psychology and the behaviour side, really probably about in the 90s, is I had a very troubled lurcher. It was very aggressive to other dogs and all sorts of things. And although I'd learnt about training, dog training, sit down, stay, recall, but that wasn't helping her at all. And she was very, very aggressive, and so it was difficult to take. And as I said, I started being one of the people that do the 3 o'clock in the morning walk to avoid people. But I went started studying psychology, and I got a diploma and read lots, and then I worked out that it's not just about training, but about understanding their mind and how dogs think, and that's how I started to help her. I did huge amounts of training, but it didn't make any difference because I wasn't understanding her needs.
Right.
So that's how I started.
Do you think that people forget that dogs do have needs?
It's a very good point. I wonder why, because when I'm walking about almost any town, I see about maybe 70% of dogs that are not completely balanced or happy. I can just feel that, or I can see it. And about 70% of dogs are really calm and really happy and balanced. I think it's because obviously I reached out originally to start to get into psychology. It was about, 28 years ago, went to a psychologist with my dog, and he said, you're just not understanding her needs from her point of view. And I wonder why. I guess why people don't seek help is they perhaps think that nothing can be done. I think that's one of the reasons, it seems to me. Or they think their dog has that character, or it's a rescue dog and it's come with those features. Yeah. I mean, I hear people say, I've got a barker, or I've got a puller, or I've got a reactive dog, but they don't need to be like that. And more importantly, they don't want to be like that. They want to be calm. We all want to be calm, but I know how to make dogs calm, or how to help them be calm and be balanced.
And do they want to be liked?
I think, this is the thing, of all the dogs I've rescued over the years, I think they want to feel safe. And I think what people do, and all it's obvious really, but I made all the mistakes in the past when I was younger, trying to work out what was going wrong, why was my dog so aggressive, etc., etc. But I just think it's people not understanding their needs to feel safe and safe and calm, but have trust. And I think people just don't realise that dogs can be helped,
Yeah.
And so every dog can be helped. And this old dogs can't learn new tricks. Yes, they can. And they definitely can. And you can change any dog by understanding their needs from their point. So the way I do that is to think like a dog. That's
Right.
my and everybody has different ways of helping dogs. There's lots of different trainers and behaviourists.
So how do you actually physically assess a dog? How do you do that?
Well, it's interesting because often what I really want to say, because I just want to say this first. When dogs have got any behaviour that's not balanced, whether it's barking or being reactive, it's obvious they're not happy and they're not calm and they want to be calm. But that can be changed very definitely.
Yeah.
And I think. Sorry, what was your question?
Just to say, how do you go about?
Oh yes, well that's interesting because it's all about psychology. And really, what I'd like to do when I meet a dog for the first time is, put them on a chaise longue, and with my notepad and say, "Tell us about your childhood."
Yeah.
That's a classic Freud thing, but often it is about that. It's what's happened before.
Yeah.
But the big thing we have to remember is the thing that I've heard so many times. Yes, well, he was a rescue and he had a bad time, and that's why he's like that. But it can be changed.
Is that a total misconception then?
It's an absolute misconception. Yeah. And you think, well, no, instead of, just letting him have this problem and feeling that's his past, help him, Because so I've had, for example, one of my dogs, my white lurcher cross, she had 4 homes before me. And so she's found wandering with had no training and no socialisation with other dogs. But then she had 2 more homes out of the sanctuary, and one family said she was untrainable, and they had a trainer. So that's the interesting thing for me about training itself. And then the second family, the third family, said she was uncontrollable. So they kept on bringing her back, and then I took her on, and I can't be smug. It's taken many months, perhaps 6 months or so before she started. Now. So she couldn't meet and she's the one that you see me walking in Broadstairs with. She can be in Morelli's or at a cafe and she'll lay there with dogs walking past and she'll walk beautifully on the lead. But when I got her, she was immensely aggressive to other dogs. She'd pull me off my feet trying to get at them.
Really?
Foaming at the mouth aggression. She had no recall and didn't want to come back either if you let her off. I think because she was a bit feral. But she pulled like a freight train. And now she walks calmly next to me, not even on a lead.
And enjoys herself.
Yeah. Well, there's the thing. I often say one of my own sayings. I use lots of famous sayings as well. Any quotes that I can help persuade people. But a famous, thing is that which is one of my own, is that you get freedom through boundaries. And people say, that sounds the opposite. But the way I see it, that if you help dogs feel calm and guide them, because that's what they're looking for, guidance. Yeah. If you guide them and make them feel and trust in you, but that is through setting boundaries, a lot of that. But also having the right, your energy has to be right. If a dog's energy is
because
wrong,
they'll read you, aren't they?
There's a lot of transference. If your energy is wrong, then their energy will be wrong. And I think what happens to people is that where their dogs, for example, are maybe reactive, that's obviously not very nice, and it's worrying for the owner. But what happens then is that they become nervous when they're in future. But really, it's the opposite. You've got to be calm.
It's quite interesting you say that because. I'm not going to mention the guy's name on TV, but you know who I mean.
Yeah.
A lot of the times, he says, the problem's not the dog.
Yeah.
It's the owner.
It maybe is that, but I think it's hugely, it's just unintentional, it's just miscommunication. I mean, I always say, for example, it always surprises people, and again, I'm not being smug, I don't pretend to be, the be-all and end-all, but I've studied it for 25 years and rescued a lot of dogs, obviously. But if a dog reacts to another dog and it's not very nice for you, or they bark a lot or bark at the door at home or whatever, anything, then the truth is they're only doing it because they think that's what you want.
Really?
Yes, and that's the big shock to people. Well, of course they don't want it. It's awful, that they do that. But they're misunderstanding what you want them to be or what their role is particularly, and they don't want to do it. They want to just be calm and just be by your side and not do it. So it's just looking at that. I think what you might have been alluding to is that it's always quite complex, but in a way it's simple. But it's just understanding from a dog's point of view. That's all I ever do. Everything that I do, I just think, well, how does a dog think, and how particularly do they behave to each other? But dogs are definitely looking for structure and for you to make them feel safe. And why they're doing it is that they don't feel safe. And, it's about changing that. I mean, a famous quote is, because people say, I want my dog to change and not be like this because it's no fun anymore. Yeah. And a famous quote is, it sounds like you're repeating yourself, but it's quite a deep quote really, and it's this: change happens when change happens. Yeah. So in other words, if you change some
That's
things,
quite a good analogy, isn't it?
Yeah, if you change, But I'll use quotes from anywhere. So I've got lots of other interests, which actually some things help. I studied English literature at uni, and also I'm a musician. And interestingly, both of those things sort of help, particularly being a musician. Yeah. Because the one thing that I think people do is they try things for a while and then give up. And because I'm a musician, the one thing I learn is to be able to play guitar or piano, whatever I play, is that it just takes a long time and I never give up. Some of the things with dog behaviour, you've got to be consistent and persistent. Ooh. But you've also got to be calm. That's what I was saying earlier. Yeah. When your dogs react to another dog, the last thing you should do is be anxious or hold the lead. But you automatically will feel like that because you are anxious.
Because you are anxious, of course you are.
But you've actually got to stay calm. Yeah. Because otherwise they pick up on your anxiety, and then they're likely to do it more. Yeah. So, but I know that.
So it builds, doesn't it?
Yeah. So it's easy for me to say be calm, but what I do is help people be the person that the dog's looking for to become.
So in relation to that, could you give us an example of a dog and how you've changed the dog and the owner?
For example, there's a lovely couple. I mean, you look on my Facebook page.
I mean, there's lots of quotes on there. Yeah. People saying how good you've been and how their dogs have changed, and everything's very positive.
Well, that's very nice, and it's lovely that people say that, but there's lots of different behaviours, and I never say that I know everything or I'm the best or anything else like that.
But I think it just comes across that you just love.
I love dogs.
Love dogs.
But that's interesting. I love dogs, but I don't love dogs. So mine, go on holiday with me. They're on the sofa. Yeah. They're very loved, but I don't love them in a silly way. No. Because I think dogs are looking for you for guidance as well and boundaries. Because otherwise, I think the things with dogs, they're very instinctual beings and they're just looking for this guidance. And I think just unintentionally, people don't realise where they're giving the dogs the wrong signals. But I can definitely, this year, since I did it as self-employed, obviously I've studied dogs for 30 years, but the last year I've been self-employed. Yeah. And about 70 dogs.
That's how many you've...
This year. Yeah.
70 dogs.
But what I want to say is any success that I have is due to the people that I've worked with. Yeah. Because it's them that's got to do the work. And
it's a joint thing, isn't it? And it's guidance as well, isn't it?
I know how to help dogs and I know how to help them calm. Whatever their issue is, I know. But it's about the person taking it on board, doing the work, but particularly the psychology. And so I'm grateful to them because I can't... Because sometimes people said to me, wow, because they see I make their dog calm almost immediately, but that's not fixed immediately. It takes months still. But they said, wow, they're so different with you. And there's been a suggestion, would you take my dog away and change it? And the answer is no, not for £1 million. Because it's got to be them that's got to. So also I've heard where people are saying, it's like, 10 weeks or a huge amount of money or something. But really, I usually, in all the dogs I've done this year, on average, it's 2 or 3 visits. And that's
really?
It. Yeah. Because
so you were just mentioning about a couple that you dealt with.
Oh, yes, thank you. Bring me back.
That's all right.
So many thoughts in my mind. There was a lovely couple that had a very reactive lurcher, and they couldn't really take him out anywhere, so they were, again... just such a lovely couple, and they listened to everything. And And I said, well, it's just because your dog's picking up that you're not really, they don't feel safe with you and you're not guiding them properly. But it's not about being bossy or anything like that. It's just about changing things. My first visit is usually 3 hours where I explain the psychology of what you have to change so they feel safe in your company. But anyway, this couple, it was one of the most touching ones, really. But again, it was they did the work. They had a lovely lurcher, and they said they couldn't take him anywhere. And anyway, so I did some work with them, and then I told them what to do. And I came back 2 weeks later, and I said I'll bring my dogs,
right.
Because my dogs are very calm now. So they used in my work to help other dogs. So if they react to other dogs, obviously you can't borrow somebody's dog to terrorise.
No, you can't.
My lovely dogs, they work with me.
Yeah.
In fact, they help me. So I take my dogs along and obviously help the dog not be reactive. Anyway, I think it was the third visit. I said, well, let's go to Broadstairs. Because there's lots of dogs. I often use Broadstairs along the front. They said,
it's a big doggy town, isn't it?
They said, we don't go there. And
really?
No, because of the dogs along the front. They said it's no fun. We've been there a couple of times and it's so uncomfortable that we don't go there. I said, well, we're going to go there because your lurcher was okay with my dogs, which they were surprised at, but it was me leading the dog and giving it the calmness through myself. Yeah. Anyway, so we went to Broadstairs and there was just a couple of little instance where I said no, and just I'm very calm. The thing is, you've got to be as calm, but also you've got to be assertive as well and guide them, but stay calm because they get a lot of strength from you. Then it's all about dogs. As I say, dogs. Famously, is that dogs are a mirror of you really, and if you can be calm, they'll be calm. But obviously, there's things to do first.
Of course.
Anyway,
there's groundwork, isn't there?
I took this dog to Broadstairs on the third visit. I walked on the front, a couple of little growls, and then nothing. And they said to me, we were standing on the front, and they said to me, which actually I found it quite touching, this is something that we never thought would be in our life again, coming to Broadstairs.
Really?
Yeah, so it was quite touching.
So not only have they
changed their life as well.
Changed their lives, they've changed their dog's life. Yeah. But as a whole.
But the interesting thing was that when we first went on the front, I walked their dog and he wasn't reacting at all. And then obviously there's work to do. Yeah. And then I stood by and then one of the couple held the dog for a minute. Or actually, no, I was standing by them. Yeah. And then a dog walked by and he growled. And I said, but that's... And they said, well, why did that? He didn't do it when you were... I said, but that's because he's picking up... I think why dogs do... But I don't think why. I know why dogs are reactive or bark, that kind of thing at the door. And that's because they're trying to protect you. But that's not their role. And, that shouldn't be their role. I think lots of people think, well, barking at the door is a bit annoying, but I don't mind it too much. But we should mind... Because if dogs bark at the door, it means they're trying to protect you, which means they're stressed. Yeah. So my dogs don't bark at the door. What they might do is bark once to tell me somebody's there, and I'll say, oh, thank you, and then they just go back to sleep because they know that I can deal with it.
What's the most...
But it's the reactivity is the most difficult thing for people, and it spoils their dog's life and their own, and I can definitely help.
And I think people get embarrassed, don't they? That they can't walk along with the dog because it barks at other dogs and it's pulling away. Yeah. And they look at other dogs and they think, well, why does that dog just trot along as happy as anything? And why does my dog go...
But it's just picking up on the person. So what I do is help the person change and to guide so that the dog feels safe. That's all. Dogs are just looking... I mean, I always say this, and the other thing is why the psychology works is that if a dog, say, was barking a lot, and you just looked at it from a training point of view, like, well, how could we stop it barking? We could, give it a treat or a clicker, or maybe this wouldn't work, but maybe tell him off. But that's sort of pointless because what you're looking at is the symptom. Yeah. But what you should be looking at is what's the cause. So what we do is change. Holistically, whatever people say is the issue when they call me, and they say, "Oh, the only issue is this." But I just look at everything. Now I find lots of other things, and we change the dog and help them and the dog feel just calm, you know. But it's funny how I got into it. I had an epiphany recently because when I was doing social work, you know, social care work for 32 years, it was essential for me to rehome dogs, even evenings and weekends.
Really?
I say I did.
And that was why you were doing the social work?
It was absolutely essential. And I did, like I say, I rehomed in my spare time, weekends, I get 1,100, more than 1,100, and I did 4,500.
And was that to help the owners as well?
Yeah, so rehabilitate the dog, help the owner, train, give them my knowledge. But I did 4,500 hours volunteering. But I realised, I'm not going into too much personal thing, but why was it so important to me? And why was it so important to me to go into social services and then into social care to work with people with learning disabilities, which I did for 32 years? And it's because, without giving too much detail, some of my childhood was where I felt very insecure to do with a family breakup. And I know what that feels like. And so I didn't even know why I wanted to do it, but I thought, why did I want to work in learning disability and then rehoming dogs? And if one of the sanctuaries phoned me, however tired I was, I had to do it, you know. And it's not because I'm nice or anything, I just had this need so that I know that dog didn't feel that insecurity anymore, and I know what it feels like, and I know how to help. And it's to do with structure and you being, you know, calm but capable, and all those. But the psychology, like I say, it takes me a few hours to explain.
Can I ask you a question? Right. As I mentioned to you before, I used to run a charity for children who've got vision impairment. Now, a lot of them would meet different animals, not just dogs, but lots of animals. Animals know when they meet somebody who's got a disability.
Yes.
There is something, isn't there?
Yeah.
Because they sort of want to come up and they want to meet that person. And I've seen it so many times with my son. And you just think, wow, where does that... We've got family, we've got dogs. The dogs just go straight to my son and his girlfriend.
Yeah. Well, they're very sentient beings. I think obviously I love dogs, but we're only getting, I think, the beginning of knowing what they know. You know, I don't mean anything silly, but we already know that they can sense somebody going into a, you know, epileptic fit because they can smell pheromones. You know, they can do the drug stuff and help support people and the blind and everything else. But I think I think we know they're quite spiritual. They can see things or sense the weather changing. I mean, we might only be at the beginning of what they know. But what was an interesting thing is you said about how dogs, you know, and how they're thinking. And I think that is a massive thing that we need to look at more of understanding. I think a big disservice people do without realising it is, I often say in my talks to people when I'm helping change a dog, is that I know it's obvious, but they're not, you know, they're not a camel, and they're not a fish, and they're not a human. Yeah. And they don't think like a human or a fish. So I think we do disservice to them by anthropomorphism, you know, thinking of them as a human. I mean, obviously, you excluded. I think they're nicer than humans, you know. but they're not humans. And it's more respectful, and that's my study. How are you thinking? What are you trying to say? Why are you unhappy? Why are you stressed? But I think if they've got any behaviours, then they're stressed, and I don't think people realise that. And they want to be calm, because in life, all of us want to be calm. You know, I mean, I say that, but if you think about it, nothing is more important in our lives, human lives, than being calm. You know, if I said to anyone, what would you like most in the world? You know, they might say, if they were a bit shallow, a Ferrari or a Bahamian island or even a lottery win. But what they mean is that would bring me calm because I wouldn't have any.
Don't you find though that human beings, we love companionship? Dogs are exactly the same.
Yes, yeah.
Because if you think You know, it's that saying, a dog is for life, sort of thing. But a dog is your companion.
Yes.
You know, they are your companion.
Yeah. Well,
and you do things together.
It's a very good point. I mean, I say particularly with rescue dogs, but it's true of all dogs, but I make this point because I deal with a lot of rescues, is you rescue a dog, but really they often rescue you, you know, as well. Yeah. Because often people are, you know, they're so vital. I mean, a lot of pets are, you know, they're so vital to people because, for whatever reason. But, you know, they help your mental health because they make you calm anyway. Or if they're calm, and that's what I think I'm doing the service. Obviously, it's helping people as well. Yeah. And I guess because I worked in social work, maybe that helps me with people. But I use.
So you can understand the owner.
Yes.
You can, because of what you've done in the past, you can actually think, okay. But then you can also understand the dog.
Yeah. It's really hard. I actually think that it's harder though. If I could just have the dog, yes, that would be a lot easier than the people. But in the end, the people I've worked this year...
We are a complicated thing, aren't we, people?
But all of the people I've helped this year, all of them, I'm just very proud of them because they've all of them, all the people I've helped this year, if you're listening, you know...
They will be.
They're wonderful, you know, because they've made me happy, they've made their dog happy, but those people have worked hard. You know, I mean, like I always say, it's a journey, changing a dog to a calm. It's not a race.
Are there some dogs that you may not be able to help?
Well,
because of the issues that they may have?
Yes, possibly. But I just think it's time. Some change quicker. I mean, most of the ones I've worked with, if they're reactive, change within a few months. But if they're further down the line, like Mabel was, my dog, she probably took 6 months to a year. So I think in the end, you can change. You can change.
Do you ever go back and visit some of the dogs that you've worked with the owners? Do you go back and see them?
I go back a few times, but actually most of them are on my Facebook now. So
they really?
Stuff. Yeah.
So you get updates anyway?
Yeah, get updates, I really look forward to those. You know,
that must give you a lot of satisfaction.
Yeah, it's massive, I mean, it's like I say, I often say to people, you know, like I say, I'm sure that there'll be other behaviourists and listeners. I don't say I'm the best, I don't say...
It's a big field, isn't it?
Big field, nice people out there. But I just do my best each time, and I use the knowledge that I've got, and which I think, whether people agree or not, but I do, you know. But I just, it's massively satisfying because you're changing lives. You're changing, particularly the dog. People. I must say, to begin with, even the ones that I've helped and have done really well, and I'm proud of them. I think they'd all admit at the beginning, you can't always see why you should do these different things because some of it's counterintuitive. And I say, yes, but just do these things, even if you can't see the reason, and then you'll see a difference. And then, you know, they start seeing a difference in a few weeks. I talked to a lady the other day with a reactive dog, and she'd been... I say, generally I can help a dog within 3... I won't be doing the work, they will be, but within 3 months.
That's quite important, isn't it?
It's the person...
They do the work.
It's the person's got to do work because the dog's got to believe in them. But mostly it's been about 3 months. When I talked to a lady that was seeing a trainer the other day, and she'd been doing it for 3 years, and there was no... and also I've helped quite a lot of people that have had trainers before. But that's, to be honest, it's not... They might be great, but if you're only I say that to help a dog is 80% psychology and 20% training. The power is in changing the cause. Why are they feeling? Why do they need to do it? What's their reason for growling at another dog? And that's the bit. And they want to be calm. Dogs want to be happy.
Do you ever, when you're out and about, walking about with your dogs, and you see people with their dogs, and you think,
yes,
you're doing this wrong.
Yes, all the time.
And it must be really frustrating, mustn't it?
The lovely thing is the people I've helped this year, they often say they judge now other people.
Oh, really?
But really, the thing that I find is not judging. I actually want to help it. I think, well, why don't you seek help? Because they don't need to be like that, and they could be happier, you know. Yeah. So but I think it's because people don't realise that things can be done. I think they would if they. So, like I say, lots of people have said, "Oh, I didn't think anything could be done," but it can, and you know.
Do you find, like, say when you're in Broadstairs, you're going around, that Broadstairs, it's a very friendly dog community, isn't it?
Oh yes.
I mean, it is. I mean, you've got the sausage dogs that all go out on the beach.
It's the most dog-friendly town. 10 places along the front I can go with my dogs. 10.
Yeah. Oh, this is what we found when we moved down.
Yeah.
Dogs are welcome everywhere.
Yeah.
And nobody batters an eyelid, which I think is lovely, isn't it?
It's fantastic, and also, you know, I like you really feel welcome in the places that I go in. You know, they remember your name, the dogs' names, and they're very welcome.
And the bowl goes down.
But yeah,
what about the doggy ice cream in Morelos?
I know, it's fantastic. Yeah, and then then you get known. And then, when I was starting the thing off this year, I was trying to, because to get out of social care work, go into being self-employed, it's quite hard because at the beginning no one knows you, and you think, well, how can I advertise? So I was giving out leaflets. Yeah. My vet, which I'm very proud of, said, "I'll give you work," and some of the charities that I helped, they said, "Well, we'll give your name." That's
brilliant.
So it started like that, but mostly now it's just word of mouth.
Word of mouth is a phenomenal thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because that's what works.
Yeah. But it's scary starting it off, too. But somebody said to me, you know, like the first month I had just like a couple of people, and then somebody said, "But your dogs are so amazing." I mean, I just think that's normal, but they say almost no dogs walk alongside you like that, like your two dogs. And I thought, I might get a sandwich board saying I'm a dog behaviourist and walking on the front. And then somebody said, "Why don't you put some bibs on them, you know, dog jackets?" So that's what I did. And I thought, well, that's... Because somebody said, "But they're your best advert."
They are, yeah, because they're the walking advert, aren't they?
All the time people stop and say, how do you do that? How do you get... I said, well,
Now, I've got to ask you another question, because this is one that always... Whenever we're walking around, not just Broadstairs, but around Thanet, greyhounds and lurchers.
Yes.
There are so many.
Yeah. Well, there was a lovely charity in... Well, they're very deserving to start with, aren't they? Greyhounds, you know, because everybody knows they've had a difficult time with them racing and they get injured and all sorts of things. So, and there's a charity, lovely charity, Retired Greyhounds Canterbury, at Wingham. Right. So there we have... I mean, they always have about 20 greyhounds at least in there.
Because they're such a lovely dog, aren't they?
I love greyhounds, because they're, you know, you would think they need a lot of exercise and they don't. They're quite lazy, and they're very calm. Yeah, they're lazy and calm. And
well, put the telly on. I'm going to watch the telly. I'm going to sit on the telly.
And they don't need much exercise.
So, Mitch, you were saying about a lady with a dog that was really pulling, who you saw, and she couldn't take the dog out on her own because it was a large...
yes, a lovely couple. I mean, I sort of... It's funny, some people you just see and you think, you know, you just loved going around and seeing them. Such a lovely... I think why they were a particularly lovely couple is they were listening, they took it all on board, and then they worked hard. You know, it's all about dedication. But so she couldn't take the dog out, it was pulling on the lead. So it was a sort of boxer, staffy boxer, like a cross. Very, heavy dog, and she couldn't take him out on her own. Only her husband took him out. But so just did 3 visits, and now she says she takes him out on her own, and you know he's nice and calm. And we looked at other things, but I always look at everything. Because he was barking at the door a lot. And so we looked at that.
So really, when you're seeing somebody with their dog, you're studying the person as well, aren't you?
Yes.
And how they relate to their dog. Would that be correct?
Yes, that is absolutely that. Yeah.
And do you pick up immediately, or does it take a little while to pick up why that dog and that person are not interacting as they should?
That's an interesting question, but often when I talk to them on the phone before I get there, I already know what's wrong.
Really?
Yeah, it's just from talking to people.
Because they tell you what they're doing.
They tell you what and how their dog reacts. And because I've studied it for a long time, I already know what's wrong before I get there. Yeah. Because, you know... and I ask, you see, as a psychologist, you've got to ask lots of questions, and often people don't always, you know. So I'm asking a question, and it's pointed so that I can find out about the dog, you know, and what it does. So I ask a lot of questions, and they go, "Yeah, I see that," And often I say to them, but your dog also does this, doesn't they? Doesn't he or she?
Yeah.
And they say, how do you know that? And I said, because they always go together. So for example, I might say, if it's reactive, I said, your dog also pulls or barks a lot, or barks at the door, or something else, or other things. And so I sort of know all the things that are going to go together. So I always look at everything holistically. So whatever people say the problem is, they say the only problem is they haven't got any, their recall isn't good. But I always know there'll be, if their recall isn't good, well, that's because they haven't set boundaries elsewhere. And why aren't they listening to the person? You know, or why, if the dog feels that you're worth listening to because you make them feel safe and calm, they'll come back to you anyway. But I always look at holistically. Whatever the issue they say, I look at everything, because I say it's a bit like if you went to the doctor, you weren't very well, and if a dog's got behaviours, it's not well. It's not mentally well, and so I look at everything, because you should look at everything. If you went to your doctor, you didn't feel very well, they wouldn't just say, "Oh, well, let me just look in your ear," and that'll be it.
They've got to look at everything.
I look at everything. So often I pick up on other things. I say, well, let's change that as well. So they, and they bark a lot of the dog. Well, let's change that as well. Help them not want... See, and the thing is, like I said at the beginning, your dog doesn't want to do those things, you know, and he's only doing it, barking at other people or barking at the door or whatever it is he's doing, is only because he feels that's what you want him to do.
Really?
And so it's just communication. So I help dogs feel safe and guided by their owner. And
you mentioned the word communication.
It's all about making a connection with the dog. So that's what I do. And often people say to me, like, I go in and talk to them for a while, ask them to lay down by me, and within 5 or 10 minutes they're really calm, where they say not often when people go in, their dog's really excitable for ages. but not just excitable, but nervous and anxious. But often, if I'm there for a while, the dog will just lay down. And I wouldn't necessarily have said a lot to the dog, or not much at all, but often the dog will lay on my feet and go to sleep. Yeah. But that.
Do you find that dogs? I mean, dogs know, don't they?
Yeah.
They understand.
Yeah.
You know, when I've seen dogs that you think are part of the person.
Yes.
You know, it's like they are. Together completely.
Yeah.
So dogs have and they is it trust?
Yeah, well, trust is what they're looking for in a person. I think that's the really hard thing. But it's a good word. I often say to people when their dogs, got lots of issues, barking or being reactive or pulling on the lead, that those kind of things, and they want their dog to be calm, but they want. I think people want. I mean, I love my dogs, but really what I want them mostly to do is trust me. And I think a lot of things, people love their dogs, buy them lots of things and treats, but they're not.
And is it also about dogs enjoying life?
Of course, but they can only enjoy life if they're calm.
Yeah.
Can't they? So if your dog's got behaviours, it is my interest, or not just interest, I want to help them be calm, but if they're calm, they're happier. You can, all of us.
And you're happier, aren't you?
Well, yeah. So it's a win-win. I say to people, it's a win-win.
It's a win-win.
Because the person will be happy because they can take their dog anywhere, take them to a cafe and walk along the front with that. But the dog's happy. But really, I say this rather facetiously, but I'm more interested in the dog, and the other thing I often say to people, they say, because they don't know what I do, you're a dog trainer. I say, no, I'm not really a dog trainer. I do training as well, but really I'm a psychologist or a behaviourist. I want your dog to be calm. And I say this facetiously to people when I get there, because it's the opposite of what they want. And I say, I'm not very interested in obedience. I'm being slightly facetious, but I say I'm not interested in obedience. What I'm interested in is your dog being calm, but if he's calm, the byproduct will be that he'll be well behaved.
Exactly.
But none of us, this is why I say about just training alone, we shouldn't be looking at dogs just from that side. I want them to be obedient. We shouldn't be looking at it from that side. We should be wanting them to be calm first. That's what we should be interested in. But if they're calm, they won't be reactive. They won't bark a lot. But it's helping them be calm. That's the essence, really, for me. And that's been...
And also, carry on, Mitch.
I think like I say, I'll never be in here being smug. You know, I'm the best. I don't say that. And some very good people around, but I hope that when I say, obviously, I'm doing it as a living, and I love dogs and I want to help them. But I hope my edge is that how many other dog trainers or behaviourists have done 4,500 hours volunteering, and I hope that's my credibility.
Yeah.
You know,
and the positive,
I'm still learning as well.
And the positive feedback you get from people as well.
That's true, but you know, you can never be smug. I'm always learning. I can take, you know.
I think we all learn, don't we, every day?
Yeah.
It's part of life.
It always worries me, anybody that says... I've actually been to help rehome dogs before, you know, so at the end where I've been rehoming 1,100, I go to somebody, so I come around and give you some advice, and sometimes people say to me, I don't need any advice, I know all about dogs. You know, I know, and I thought, well, how many dogs have you had? They say 2. And I said, well, I've helped 1,100 and had 7. I've been doing it 30 years. I don't know all about dogs. I'm still learning.
And you're still learning, yeah.
You know, so, and in fact, if anybody said to me that is another behaviourist, you know, would you like to come round and, you know, talk about... I say, yes, please, when can I come? I want to know more.
And the other thing is, because you will know things that maybe they don't know.
Yeah.
And you bounce off each other.
You're always learning.
You help.
Yeah, but you should never say... It's all about learning, and I'm very keen to always do that, you know, learn as much as possible.
I've got to ask you a question, right? When you're in Broadstairs, where's your dog's favourite place to go?
Oh, I have to say, there's a few.
You can just...
I have to say Morelli's.
Where do the dogs feel happy?
Morelli's, because they lay in there and people see them, their coats.
And they do dog ice cream.
I mean, the old curiosity shop, because Tilly's so nice, and the Tartar Figure. I go in others, but all those particularly, I mean, I go in the Albion, there's loads, but those 3 are my probably favourite.
Yeah.
And they're always nice, so I think my dogs are sort of known as well. But I see people and they, you know, say, oh, could I ask you for advice? And I say yes. And I talk to them for a bit and they say, yeah, we've seen you loads. So people have seen me and I don't even know they've seen me.
Exactly.
Because I think it is, I'm quite proud of that, that my dogs, I've got 2 rescue dogs, one was very anxious and traumatised from racing. And when I first got him, he wouldn't, you know, it was hard to take him out, and if he was out, he wouldn't go to the toilet while I was out. Only when he came home, he was so scared. And the other one was very aggressive, and both of them now, they help each other, and I've helped them both to be calm. Yeah. And I think I'm known for walking about Broadstairs, and they walk next to me, and I don't hold.
So if people see you out and about walking, and the dogs have got their coats on,
they walk to heel without me holding.
Yeah, and they've got their little coats on.
Yes, yeah.
You're happy for people to come up, aren't you?
Yes, of course, and chat. And people do, yeah. I talk for ages. If people want to listen, I'd like to know. I'll have it on. But it is a real, you know,
but it's a fascinating
passion.
Subject.
It's a passion for me.
Yeah.
And, you know, like I say, a lot of it is counterintuitive, and it's just understanding how dogs think is my interest. And I've studied it for a long time, because otherwise, if you know, without that. But I observe, you were saying about when I go to help somebody, I observe, because that's all you can do, I observe, ask questions, but because I've been doing it long enough, as if they ask the questions and I observe things and they say, oh, they also do this, I know what's wrong then, and how to change it. But to be fair to me, I often think, when I started doing this, being self-employed, I didn't think it was very valuable, because I thought, well, everybody must know that stuff that I know. And then when I start talking to people, they don't, because obviously that's not their interest at that point. But I didn't even think it was very valuable at the beginning. And then I tell them, they go, really? What you mean, if you do that, that will change that? Because it's not about telling them off or anything like that. It's about changing everything. But it's particularly, it's you.
And it's empowering knowledge as well, isn't it?
Yeah, so I give people the knowledge and the tools, but it's all about how they feed off yourself. Yeah. And if you're calm and you guide them properly, and you make them feel safe, then they'll change. But dogs want to change. Yeah. That's the biggest thing. They don't want to.
I think really that sums it up, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think it does.
Dogs want to change.
They do, yeah.
If somebody wants to get in touch with you after listening today, how can they do that?
Well, I've got a Facebook page. It's Mitchell Kennington Calm Canines.
Lovely.
And you can look on there.
And from there, they'll be able to get in touch with you.
If you're not on Facebook, you could go to, Morelli's. They know me there. Or Tilly in the old curiosity shop. But yeah.
No, that sounds great.
Thank you.
Listen, fascinating.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely fascinating.
Yeah.
No, it's been brilliant. Yeah. And, it's made me sort of think about how I will now look at a dog, because it's not just a little four-legged person who runs along and etc., is it?
No. And they're very valuable to people, obviously.
Yeah.
But
we've had dogs, over the years, and we've lost dogs, which is sad. And they are great company.
Yes.
They are great company.
They are,
especially when you wake up in the morning and you have a little Shih Tzu that comes up and starts licking your face on the bed.
Well, they keep you calm, but also they make you exercise. I would go out on the worst day possible where you just stay in and watch telly. I still go out for a walk.
Go out.
Because you have to. Yeah. So they're good for your well-being.
Yeah, very much.
Yeah.
Well, like I say, Mitch, thank you so much.
Right. Thank you for coming.
And, thoroughly enjoyable. So, excellent. Thank you. Thank you for listening to Broadstairs Life. You can follow us on Facebook and various other social media platforms, including YouTube. Thank you for listening.